Well, here we go again. Another video claiming the world's about to end, and this time it's a delightful cocktail of economic instability, AI disruptions, and oh joy, war. Because who doesn't love a good apocalypse narrative? It's like a buffet of doom served up by someone who probably thinks unknown is a valid source. Now, I'm no fortune teller, but I can tell you this video is likely to stink worse than my bog after a rainstorm. So grab your popcorn, or whatever you young folks munch on these days, and let's dive into this delightful mess. And hey, if you enjoy watching me roll my eyes into the back of my head, maybe consider subscribing. It won't save the world, but it might save you from having to watch this nonsense alone. Let's get into it.
Welcome everybody, Full Spectrum Survival, only on YouTube, bringing you information from America and from around the world, the things that you need to know to keep your family safe. Let's get to some of these headlines that are breaking and hitting us hard inside the U.S.
Ah yes, the classic breaking headlines approach, because nothing says trustworthy news like a dramatic setup that makes you feel like you're about to hear the latest on a zombie apocalypse. I can already feel the tension rising, and I'm just sitting here in my bog. Let's see what catastrophe they've cooked up this time.
Hard inside the USA. You already know that the 101st Airborne is in the U.S.-Mexican border. The 716th Military Police Battalion, the legendary 101st Airborne, they've been deployed, and their mission is to team up with Customs and Border Patrol. Now, we're starting to see some information from the cartels being passed through social media that the 101st will be attacked directly. They're already saying that they will shoot down the planes with RPGs, take out the helicopters with their own weaponized drones, and they will attack the soldiers when available. Now, this isn't going to be done in mass. It's going to be done in very small pockets. And when this happens, you're going to see a very large reaction from the United States government and the U.S. military. President Trump is not going to stand for what is happening with the cartels, and we can expect to see a very, very similar war as we did with the fight on terror in the Middle East.
Oh yes, comparing a potential conflict with cartels to the Middle East wars, because nothing says let's learn from history like diving headfirst into the same old mistakes. It's like trying to fix a leaky roof by adding more holes. I can already hear the military-industrial complex rubbing its hands together in glee. Let's hope this doesn't turn into another endless saga of chaos and confusion.
All of America is going to push our assets south to the Mexican border. We are expecting another tariff shot here in the next 30 days. We expect Trump to put in that maybe 15 to 25% tariff. The manufacturers that are down there, like Mondelez, which is your food prices, Ford all across the world, they're all saying that they're freaking out because they don't know what's going to happen with the cost of doing business. But I know what's going to happen, and so do you. They're going to pass that price on to we, the people. Now, according to the 101st, they say that we are trained, we are ready, and we are supporting this important mission. Our soldiers are committed. We are protecting all Americans, and we are supporting our civilian partners. We will defend the territorial integrity of the United States of America. Now, I've told you, anytime they use the words sovereignty and territorial integrity, they mean business. That's when we're going to war.
The classic we're going to war declaration. It's like the ultimate dramatic flourish, isn't it? Nothing gets the adrenaline pumping quite like a vague threat of conflict. It's almost as if they think shouting war will magically solve all the problems. Spoiler alert. It won't, but hey, at least it makes for good theater, right? Grab your popcorn. The show is just getting started.
Cashiers are going to be a thing of the past as AI drives people out of work. Now, Wendy's just launched their AI drive-thru powered by Google Cloud, taking orders at 100 locations across 20 different U.S. states. It listens, it responds, it takes orders in real time. A human worker sits there and monitors the order to make sure that it's working. In AI, they can even handle Spanish orders. You mess up, no problem. AI steps in. The tech is evolving according to Wendy's, and it will be a replacement for people. Sergey Mironov, he's proposing a Take Back Alaska movement inside of Russia. He says that we as Russia need to take back Alaska in exchange for the $16.2 billion in frozen Russian assets and funds. He claims the current value of Alaska is around $16 billion after it was sold to the USA in 1866 for $7.2 million. Now,
The classic let's take back Alaska proposal, because nothing screams rational diplomacy like demanding a state back over a century later. It's like trying to reclaim your childhood toys from a garage sale. The math might be interesting, but the logic not so much. I can only imagine the look on the faces of those in charge when they hear this one. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off.
Now we have billboards, we have pictures that I've shown you of billboards across Russia saying take back Alaska. This is no different than billboards inside the USA that are pro-Democrat, pro-Republican, anti-abortion, pro-abortion. All of these billboards are meant to change you, the people's mind. Now, if all of the Russian people suddenly start saying, you're right, Alaska is ours, Putin and Trump will have to come to heads over this. We will see a fight over Alaska. Could you imagine if we pick up Canada as a state but lose Alaska? The world's changing really quick. We have a tuberculosis outbreak. TB is hitting multiple states across the USA, Kansas, North Carolina. The real scary part for me is as it hits North Carolina, we have a state that is recovering from one of the largest natural disasters that have ever hit the state in recorded history. The hurricane that went through and the disaster that was allowed to just sit there and fester.
Yes, the aftermath of a hurricane that was left to fester. Nothing like a natural disaster to really bring out the best in a state's recovery efforts. It's like watching a slow-motion train wreck, but with more bureaucracy and less excitement, you'd think after a disaster. The focus would be on rebuilding, not letting things rot. But hey, who needs a plan when you can just let chaos reign?
For months under the previous administration is now a breeding ground for disease. We have children being affected by waterborne disease inside of that state that should never be affected by a waterborne disease in a first world country inside the USA. They have to go to the bathroom in buckets. They have to drink out of questionable water. They're refilling near questionable sources. They're not washing their hands as much as they're supposed to. They're going through feces-laden mud puddles. This is America. This shouldn't be happening. We are starting to see some cleanup now. Trump pushed the reserve over there. He pushed the engineers over there. We are seeing it now, but we're months too late. So we have tuberculosis, cluster in Kansas City, cluster in North Carolina. Most are in Wyandotte County. The CDC says that they are pushing boots to the ground. The outbreak spreads faster than anyone could have expected, and we're not trending in the right direction. More cases are expected to surface.
The classic more cases are expected line. It's like a broken record of doom. You'd think by now we'd have a handle on these outbreaks, but here we are, bracing for more bad news. It's almost as if we're in a never-ending cycle of panic and chaos. Just when you think it can't get worse, it does. Buckle up, folks. It looks like the roller coaster isn't stopping anytime soon.
The general public's risk is growing. Now, this is just in as we move forward. An explosion hit a food market in China 2 weeks ago? Now the Chinese authorities are maybe starting to call it terrorism. When you have America and NATO openly saying that they are attacking Russian assets through proxy warfare, what makes you think that we won't do it in China? Or that China won't do it to themselves and say it was America? They're getting the people ready to fight against each other. Urgent action is needed, according to this Red Alert report. Now remember, guys, this is breaking news coming into you, full spectrum survival only on YouTube. Make sure that you like this video. Please hit the subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. Please leave a comment down there that engages with some of these topics. I don't know why, but YouTube doesn't really publish these videos out to other people. Let's show them this is the information people need to know. Urgent action, they say, is needed. We must secure the world's food supply chain. We are
securing the world's food supply chain. Now there's a noble cause. It's like trying to put a band-aid on a sinking ship, with everything going haywire. Good luck getting that sorted out. It's almost as if they think a catchy slogan will magically fix the mess. Spoiler alert, it won't. But hey, at least it sounds good on paper, right?
We are facing an induction of extreme weather and other events that is putting the world's global security of the food supply chain at risk. Now, President Trump warned that Europe is next for tariffs. He imposed them recently and then pulled them back. The UK's post-Second World War food system is no longer fit to feed its people. In the country, the food security is in a precarious state. After the vote to leave Brexit, after 8 years after the UK's Brexit vote, the country has no coherent food policy. Tim Lang, emeritus professor of food policy at one of the universities, called for new legislation. They say we must begin to safeguard our future in this world. We must prioritize resilience at a country-by-country level. We need local communities growing food, and we need national frameworks that move them together. There is a gap between the official risk and resilience framework. It represents a picture that is okay, but that is very different from what people see. And that's
the classic disconnect between official narratives and reality. It's like when you see a glossy brochure for a vacation spot, but when you get there, it's a rundown shack. The gap between what's presented and what's actually happening is often wider than a toad's mouth after a big meal. It's a reminder that sometimes the official picture is just a pretty frame around a messy reality. Buckle up. The truth can be a wild ride.
See. And that's really the thing. You're not witnessing the people in the houses going hungry inside the USA. Sure, there's food at the grocery store, but a lot of people can't afford it. A lot of the food is already spoiled by the time it gets home. Look at what's happening with the price of eggs. We're having some more reports come in about what's going on with the price of beef and the price of swine, the price of pig soon. This is not over. You're going to see 2025 be one of the hardest hitting economic collapse years that you've ever experienced. So we, the people, preppers, survivalists, we're getting ready, and we're bringing you the news to make sure that you know what's going on. In particular, they're providing information. They show that communities must prepare for and withstand food shortages and other crisis events in supply chains. Multiple people from different food industries, the government and academia are getting together, and they were interviewed about the risks, the fragility, and options that are needed to improve the global food supply chain.
The global food supply chain. Always a hot topic. It's like trying to fix a leaky faucet while the whole house is flooding. Everyone's talking about risks and fragility. But let's be real. It's a tangled mess that needs more than just a few interviews to sort out. It's almost as if they think a roundtable discussion will magically solve the problem. Spoiler alert, it won't. But hey, at least they're trying to sound important while the rest of us are just trying to find a decent meal.
The chair of the National Preparedness Commission said that food security is a cornerstone of each nation's resilience. The reports that we are seeing highlight the urgency that is needed. We must coordinate an all-of-society approach, and we must ensure that no one in the world is left vulnerable. The risk to the food supply is more pronounced than ever, they say, from floods to sabotage. Now, it's not often they speak the truth. Yes, there's natural disasters. Yes, we have a problem with the topsoil. But then they speak of sabotage. And I don't know if you remember, way back in the COVID days when all the food warehouses were burning down, poultry houses burning down, we had all these different food-based events taking place. I'm betting that it was sabotage. Guys, what we're doing here is getting ready. And that's what I want you and your family to do. At the end of December last year, Russia activated the reactor on the Admiral Nakhimov nuclear battle cruiser. Project 1144.2, it's an
The Admiral Nakhimov nuclear battle cruiser, because nothing says we're ready for peace like flexing military muscle. It's like bringing a bazooka to a pillow fight. Activating a nuclear reactor is a bold move, but let's be real. It's not exactly the best way to win friends and influence people. It's more like waving a giant red flag and saying, "Look at me, I'm serious, just what we need in a world already teetering on the edge."
.2, it's an Orlan-class vessel. Russia has already invested $5 billion into this cruiser. Now, I want to remind you what happens if Ukraine hits this nuclear-powered cruiser. We have a nuclear disaster in the ocean yet again. They said we must be ready for a nuclear disaster, according to those against using nuclear power. We must be prepared because wherever this ship lands when it gets hit is where it will be affected. So available footage shows the overhaul essentially gutted at the Admiral. Old equipment removed, made way for modern systems. They have filled it up with new weapons, new onboard systems, and they have made it ready to move as a nuclear-powered cruiser through the world. The effort stands in stark contrast to the lighter-class nuclear destroyer project, which, as we reported on, has remained just a concept, but it is coming soon. So guys, get ready. We don't know what the next disaster is going to be. And when we do those live shows at night, you can see it doesn't really matter where you're.
The classic "we don't know what the next disaster is going to be" line. It's like a suspenseful movie where the plot twists just keep coming. You'd think by now we'd have a handle on things, but here we are, bracing for whatever chaos is next. It's almost comforting in a way. Like a warm blanket of uncertainty, just what we need, right? Grab your popcorn. The show is far from over.
It doesn't really matter where you're at. You could be at a grocery store and an earthquake hits. You could be walking the street and a mob breaks out. You could be, going in your vehicle, something happens right in front of you. We've got armed robberies, we've got gang problems, immigration issues, pretty much everything that you can think of. But what we also have is peace of mind in knowing that we absolutely know what's going on in this world and we can get ready for it. This is about being prepared, about not putting yourself into unnecessary positions. We're going to do some videos coming up. I've got some papers on my desk about keeping you and your family safe out there in the open. Thank you guys for being here. Make sure you hit that join button right next to subscribe or somewhere on your app if you're on the phone. Joining as a member supports me and my family directly. And I thank you guys for what you do. And I also thank all of our members who have joined for saying keep those live shows publicly available for everybody. So we can have 2,000 people at a time watching the events. We can talk about what's going on, and everybody after gets to see what's going on too. So
the classic let's all gather around and chat about the chaos approach. It's like a digital campfire where everyone shares their tales of woe and wonder. Sure, it sounds nice in theory, but let's be real. It's just a way to commiserate while the world goes mad outside. But hey, if it keeps folks engaged and informed, maybe it's not all bad. Just don't forget the marshmallows.
So that they can have, and good luck.
Well, folks, there you have it. Another delightful jaunt through the apocalypse. Courtesy of a fantastical video that had as much substance as a leaf on a windy day, we saw everything, from impending wars to economic meltdowns, and it was all wrapped up in that lovely package called Unknown. Just the kind of trustworthy information I'd expect from a source that sounds like it's been pulled from the back of my scummy pond. Did my expectations from the intro get met? Oh, absolutely. This video stank worse than a bog after a rainstorm, full of grand claims and no solid foundation. It's like they mashed together every moment of chaos from history and called it a day. I can practically hear the dramatic score in the background while they wax poetic about disasters to come. In conclusion, this whole endeavor was less of an eye-opener and more of a brain loser. A hodgepodge of fear-mongering that barely scratched the surface of reality. If I wanted vague threats and half-baked scenarios, I'd just ask my neighbor why his dog barks at 3 a.m. More substance there, I assure you. So, if you enjoyed me rolling my eyes while trying to save my sanity, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and keep that popcorn handy, because the show isn't going anywhere. Remember, the only thing more persistent than that video's nonsense is my grumbling about humans, so join me for more roasts in the future. Croak, croak.